Hi, everyone. If you're just joining us, we're just going to wait about 1 minute to allow all of our participants to join us at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. It's great to see so many of you. Thank you for joining us this afternoon here in Connecticut. We're just going to wait another 45 seconds or so to give folks the opportunity to log in to our webinar today. Thank you so much for being with us. Right, for those of you that are just joining, we're going to give it about another 30 seconds just to allow everybody who has signed up for today to get settled in and join our webinar, and then we'll go ahead and start our slide presentation. It's great to see all of you. Thank you so much for joining. All right, I think we probably have the majority of folks who are going to be joining us this afternoon. I think we're just past the 12 o'clock mark here in Connecticut on the East Coast of the United States. So I want to start by welcoming you to our webinar on the Master of Advanced Management, or MAM program at the Yale School of Management. Thank you so much for joining us today and spending a little bit of your time with us. My name is Joanne Legler. I'm the Director of Admissions for the MAM program at Yale SOM. I've been working with this program for the last few years and very excited to tell you more about the program, as well as walk through our admissions process and then use the final bit of our time together to answer any questions that you might have. So if you're just joining us, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today, and we'll get started now. I have two colleagues who have joined us today, so I want to thank so much my colleague Rachel Kinney, who's on the back end making sure that our webinar is running as smoothly as possible. And then I'd like to introduce my colleague Kelsey Knaeve, or have her introduce herself. Kelsey, thanks for joining me today.
Great, thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Kelsey Knaeve. I'm the Assistant Director of Admissions for the MAM program. And like Joanne, I've also been working with the program for a few years now.
Thanks, Kelsey. Thanks for being with me today. And so our aim today is to tell you a bit more about how the MAM can complement your MBA studies at one of our global network schools. We'll also, like I said, go through a little bit about the program, the admissions process, and then spend the last 10 minutes or so answering any questions that you might have. So you're very welcome to put your questions in the Q&A at any time. If we can answer them on the back end as we're going along, happy to do that. Otherwise, we'll spend the last few minutes going through as many questions as possible and answering those for you. So a great place to start is to introduce you to the class of 2021. This is the MAM class that started our program just about a month ago, in person and remotely. Our class of 2021 consists of 65 MBA graduates, or students who are about to either graduate from an MBA program or who may be pursuing the programs concurrently. They represent 25 different countries of citizenship. Almost everybody holds at least one, or almost everybody holds two international passports, meaning that they have one outside of the United States, and our US students are holding a passport for another country as well. Of the 32 schools in the network, 20 are represented in the MAM class of 2021. They are an average age of 32. About 39% are women, and every single student speaks at least 2 languages. Many of the students speak 3 or more, which is always an impressive statistic for me to see. My language skills are much less impressive, so it's always a pleasure to see when our students have taken the opportunity to learn more than one language and communicate in different ways. So that's our class, and again, they did start classes both remotely and in person at the Yale School of Management's Evans Hall nearly a month ago now. In fact, they are studying for midterms as we speak. So much like the class of 2021, the MAM students are quite a truly global talent. They come from now, over the years, 70 different countries on 6 continents. And so you can see here what countries have been represented in the MAM student body over the years. As you can see, it reaches quite far and wide, all the way to the sort of southern corners of the earth, the northern corners of the earth, and every place in between, which brings an enormous diversity of thought and perspective to the group. So speaking of, let's talk for a minute about the Global Network for Advanced Management. We also call this GNAM. And this started about 8-9 years ago as an idea of our former dean, Ted Snyder, who wanted to find a meaningful way to bring together students, faculty, and staff from across our network. And the network is what we think to be the best business schools globally in each of their respective areas and countries. So we're now up to 32 active members in the global network. As you can see in the Europe and the Middle East, representing 11 schools, 10, I believe, in Asia Pacific. I think we have 6 or 7 in the Americas, and then 4 now in Africa. We did welcome 2 new programs to GNAM just in the past year, the Stockholm School of Economics in Sweden and the Moscow School of Management Skolkovo in Moscow, Russia. So we welcome those students and staff and faculty to the global network. What I like about this picture in particular is how it shows the interconnectedness of being a part of this network. This is not a one-to-one model. Instead, this is a one-to-many or many-to-many model where students and staff and faculty from schools are able to connect with multiple programs, multiple colleagues and classmates to really broaden their own perspectives and to be on top of the latest research and data across the different areas of the world. What's come out of the global network over the last several years is much more than just the MAM program. You might already be aware of or even have participated in something called Global Network Week. Of course, in the past, this is an opportunity for students to come together in person and spend a week at a school, a partner school, studying a topic that they've chosen in advance and a topic that's particularly resonant in that area of the world, as well as getting some time for some cultural and fun opportunities. Usually there are 17, 18, up to 20 global network weeks to choose from, both in October and in March. Of course, this year we'll be participating in these remotely, but it's a great opportunity to learn about another area of the world, learn a little bit more about how a topic you're interested in is shared from a different perspective, and hopefully before long we'll be able to actually travel to those locations on purpose, in person, to give that opportunity to our students to travel around the network. Similarly, we've always offered these funny word called SNOCs, small networked online courses, and these are specific to students in the global network to take the opportunity to have an online class. And this was before online learning was as advanced as it is right now. We've been doing this for a really long time, which has allowed Yale SOM to be so great at moving into a more remote or hybrid model for this COVID year. But in the past and currently this year, we are offering opportunities for students to come together across the network to take a class virtually in something that they're really passionate about or interested in learning more about. As you can imagine, your classmates will come from all over the network, meaning that you'll be working across time zones, language barriers, as we know now, technological issues that might crop up. So it's a great learning experience in and of itself, as well as learning from a renowned expert from across the network about something that they are particularly interested in. Global network cases are a way for us at Yale SOM to share our patented raw case method. And this is a way that we teach case-based classes that allows students to not just have the answer to the case sort of tidied up in a 10-page PDF, but instead learn how to work through a case through multimedia. That might include news articles, videos, interviews, just using the internet as your disposal to come up in a team with the answer to a case-based question. The Global Network comes in here by allowing students and faculty to share research and information and making the cases not US-centric, but instead much more globally oriented. We also participate in a lot of events that are specific to the Global Network for students to take part in. These are case competitions, there's a leadership competition. So these are fun ways to come together as a school to compete in a friendly way against teens and students from other schools for bragging rights in investing or in leadership. We also have webinars and talks and conversations and conferences. We've done 2 surveys, one on the role of women in business and one on sustainability globally. We're benchmarking with our peers as well. And so bringing this group together in a meaningful way, as you can see, goes beyond just degree programs. However, we do offer a degree program, the MAM for talented MBA graduates and students from across the network. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we move along. In addition to the MAM program, Yale SOM, of course, is a business school. And so we have actually several degree programs that we offer at the School of Management. Like your own institutions, we do offer a flagship full-time MBA program. Each year we bring in 350 talented students to our MBA program. A subsection of those students are called Silver Scholars. These are recent undergraduate students who have just finished up their university days. Not typical for a student to enter an MBA program at that time in their lives. This is quite a special subset of about 20 students per year who come into the program without full-time work experience, but take a year off in between their 2 years of the program to gain that experience. We also have an MBA for executives, which is a 22-month program utilizing the same curriculum from our full-time program, specifically for working professionals. We also have you guys, the MAM program. We bring in about 70 talented MBA candidates from our Global Network Partner Schools each year. We've branched out into a new degree program called the Master of Management Studies, or the MMS. Underneath that flag, you can see we have 3 very new programs. One which relies on the Global Network called the Global Business and Society Program, or GBS. These are talented early career Masters in Management students from across the network coming to spend a year with us at Yale. Next year, we'll be hosting an asset management program, again, for mostly younger early career candidates with a specific interest in finance. And then finally, about 3 years ago, we launched our Systemic Risk MMS for students working in central banks. And that's a quite small program of very specific students who are coming, again, sponsored by their countries or their cities' central banks. We do have PhD students running around the building as well. Our PhD students, in addition to their studies, often act as TAs or research assistants for faculty. So these are your classmates. These are the students that you'll be interacting with in class, in the hallways. Perhaps you'll be roommates with, hopefully making some lifelong network connections. What brings us all together, regardless of the degree program that we may be pursuing at the time, is our mission. Our mission, our founding mission, in fact, at SOM, is to educate leaders for business and society. That means we're bringing students into the program with the mission of allowing them to reach positions of leadership, but that they're doing so with a strong sense of purpose and an understanding of their place in the larger society. And that might mean their team back at work. It might mean their organization. It might take it to the next level on a city level or a regional level or even maybe a global scale. The point is that we're hoping to educate students to be leaders regardless of what their industry or their functional role might be, regardless of where they end up in the world, but with a strong sense that they are responsible not only to those organizations, but that every decision that they take and they're responsible for has an impact on the larger society around them. Everybody at SOM knows what this mission is. Hopefully, in large part, you and our current students, staff, and faculty really let this mission drive everything that they do on both a day-to-day basis, but it also provides the motivation and direction as we think about who we are as a school and our strategic and long-term plans for the school as well. So why would anybody want to do this? You're already a busy MBA student, or perhaps you're an MBA alum, and thinking about taking on another year of study might be quite daunting. So what are the benefits? For me, I think it kind of comes down to a few different things, but from an academic perspective, it's a lot about depth and breadth. And for you guys, you may be studying or about to go and study in a program that is not going to allow for a lot of depth in your area of study that you've chosen to learn more about, maybe that you're passionate about. Spend that year and take all of your classes in marketing to become a marketing expert or operations. Whatever it is that you found is your passion or your area of focus, take that opportunity and explore it to its deepest depths here at SOM. Perhaps you feel that way, but you're also eager to expand your breadth. Maybe you have been a scholar of marketing or operations or strategy or finance all your life, and you'd like to take the opportunity to learn more about areas that you haven't had the chance to do so before. Great, take all the classes that you want, both at SOM and at Yale University, and satisfy that intellectual curiosity. Become a well-rounded academic and leader. No matter how you think about the program, or maybe you think about it in both ways, I think the benefits are quite clear. Doing this program allows you access to expand your network, not only at your current GNAM school, but also with us here at Yale SOM and as a university alumnus. You also have those two powerful brands on your resume, your current MBA program, as well as Yale University and the School of Management. Perhaps you're looking to globalize your career a bit more than you might be able to if you stayed in your MBA region or your region from where you come from in the world. Yale SOM gives you an opportunity to really have access to recruiters who are thinking quite globally. So maybe you are from somewhere in Europe and you're just dying to work in Asia. You don't have access to recruiters in the same way that you might if you came to a school like the School of Management at Yale. So there's an opportunity there to connect with recruiters who are looking for a global talent base. And of course, you'll have the opportunity to work closely with the Career Development Office. The recruiting there is quite similar for MAM students as it is for MBA students. They're looking for MBA level talent. That's you. You'll have a dedicated Career Development Office coach who will work through your resume with you, get you set up for opportunities to meet recruiters, and of course, polish your interviewing skills. And then finally, we hope you're excited about joining our community. We all subscribe to that mission that I talked about earlier. It's a mission that really requires us to have a community of purpose, a community of students who are thinking about how every decision that they take will impact the society around them and how they can change the world. The curriculum is quite unique for the MAM program. We'll talk a lot about electives and the opportunity that you have for that depth and that breadth, but we do require you to take 2 courses as part of the required MBA curriculum, MAM curriculum. The first class that you'll take is the Global Leadership or Big Issues class. This is a very cool opportunity in your MAM program to be exposed to experts around Yale University who are tackling many of the issues that you care the most about from unique perspectives. You will bring in your unique perspective into the discussions that happen in this class around issues of environmentalism or water shortage, or perhaps a global pandemic like we're currently faced with right now. Having all these new perspectives in the class and then having those conversations with an expert in that space from Yale University can really be a powerful conversation. Additionally, we'd be remiss if we didn't work on your leadership skills in our program, and so we're looking forward to having you join the leadership class and working on your interpersonal effectiveness, learning about your own leadership style, how you communicate with others, how that extends into your work as you supervise individuals and teams. So this is also a powerful class, learning more about yourself, learning more about different theories and ways of leadership and deciding what works best for you, as well as shoring up any weaknesses that might be exposed from feedback from coaches, professors, and classmates. So that's 2 classes. Beyond that, you get to take whatever you'd like, both at the School of Management, where we have nearly 150 courses for you to choose from. So that's where you get to sort of explore that depth and or that breadth. But we will kind of push you out the door as well and encourage you to explore Yale University in the 9 months that you're with us. Definitely, it's worth going out and taking classes at our other graduate and professional schools, perhaps even at the undergraduate college, exponentially increasing the size and the depth of your network, meeting other students, thinking about new perspectives. And so we will, of course, encourage you to think about how you can use your time wisely to make sure you have no regrets when you leave, and that you use every single one of the class opportunities you have to satisfy those intellectual curiosities or see how they can have an impact on your career. So this next slide will slowly scroll through some of the most popular electives that students from the School of Management have taken over the years. You'll see ones that might make a ton of sense for a business school student and others that you might be surprised to see, like art or music or drama. But as you can see, we really do encourage students to get out there and try the things that they're most interested in exploring while they're with us. Nearly every student seems to take something outside of the School of Management. Our latest data indicates that nearly 3/4 of the MAM class will take something outside of Yale. Again, this is a great way to become a citizen of Yale University, as well as expand the size and the depth of your network. So to kind of illustrate this a little bit more clearly, we have 2 students who graduated in the class of 2019 as examples. Ernesto is from the country of Panama and did his MBA at IE Business School in Madrid, Spain. And as you can see from Ernesto's list of classes, he's stuck close to home. He took as many opportunities as he could to really dig into the School of Management electives that were offered to MAM students, and then took a few classes and tested the waters outside of the School of Management through a class in sociology and one at the Global Affairs School. By contrast, Christine, who hails from both Norway and Germany as a citizen and did her MBA at Said at Oxford in England, really took a lot of risks. Not only did she take a few classes at the School of Management, but plumbed the depths of her intellectual curiosity on things like classics and history and women's studies and political science. And so she had quite a different experience than Ernesto. The point here is the choices really are yours. You'd be encouraged to ask former students, current students, what they're taking, why they took it, and then also work with the academic advising office to make sure that you are taking classes along with your career coach that will make you an attractive candidate for those jobs and internships that you might be seeking post-MAM. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Kelsey for the next set of slides. You'll learn more about our community, more about admissions, and then we'll do some Q&A towards the end. So Kelsey, I'm going to have you take it away.
Great. Well, as Joanne mentioned, this is one big community here at Yale SOM, and there are many different ways to get involved. With that, I'm here to tell you about some of the more fun things that you could get involved in. And this ranges in a lot of different ways, starting with clubs. There are professional clubs, social clubs, and affinity clubs. So that would include things like the hockey club that you see here, to professional clubs like consulting or finance, to affinity clubs like the Southeast Asia Club or Women in Management. So no shortage of different clubs that you could get involved in. You could also get involved in things like a case competition, which Joanne also briefly mentioned before. They're run across the global network, so it's a good way to get involved with your classmates and maybe even win a little bit of money in the process. And at Evans Hall, we host a number of conferences year after year. They do change often, but we have some that come yearly, including things like the healthcare conference. I've seen things like a fintech conference while I've been here, among many others. You can also get involved in different events socially that we host within SOM throughout the year. Pictured here is our Friendsgiving, which is a take on the US holiday Thanksgiving. And we do hope that you get to partake in some of these traditions. Here we host a huge dinner throughout Evans Hall where students and staff and faculty all come together for a traditional US meal. And another thing that occurs in fall is football. So you may have heard of the Yale-Harvard football game. It's pretty famous around here, and it is held at each school year to year. So one year it may be at Harvard and one year it may be at Yale, but either way our students always bundle up and get ready to celebrate their team regardless of location. And all of these activities really start at orientation. So you will be thrown into getting to know your classmates and getting to know your cohort right from the very beginning. And what we hope is that you start to build these global connections right when you come here. And that doesn't only include building connections with MAM students. There are also ways to get involved with our other groups of students that we mentioned earlier. And this could include things like getting involved in the internship fund, which is a really fun way that SOM students get together to raise money for the internship fund, which allows MBA students to explore internships that they may have not been able to before. So that's another thing that the community comes together, students, staff, faculty, and really rallies around. And one of my favorite things to talk about, I've attended a few of them, is Closing Bell. So what this is a party essentially at the end of the week. It's on Thursdays, which marks the end of the academic week because Fridays are typically held for things like recruiting. So what students do is they get together to celebrate classes being done for the week. Each week is themed differently. I like this picture so much because it was themed on what I think is one of our most interesting nights. Each table was a different country, so students were able to represent either where they are from or where they have lived most recently or where they worked. And they dressed up in traditional clothing and made traditional food and taught dances and many other things. So that was a really fun night for our students to get involved in. And I think what we hope throughout all of this is that you explore as many ways as possible to really build up that network, both personally and professionally. I don't think you'll ever really know who you're sitting next to in class. It could be your future business partner, it could be your future roommate, your best friend, your future colleague. So really take advantage of all of those different opportunities and everything that SOM has to offer. And on our next few slides, you'll be able to see some of those things that we have to offer, which includes attracting a lot of really great speakers. Pictured here is Janet Yellen, the former chairman of the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System. And she's pictured here with Andrew Metrick, our Zhang Auditorium, which is our largest auditorium at Evans Hall, and we often have speakers there. Next is Laszlo Bock, an alum, class of '99. He is the CEO and founder of Humu, and you may know him from his time at Google, pictured with our organizational behavior professor, Amy Rizniewski. And I always get so excited to talk about this picture every time we do an information session like this, because it features one of our MAM students. On the left, Rahina Garba, who did her MBA at the University of Ghana, and she's also from Ghana. She's pictured with His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Ghana. So you can only imagine how exciting that must have been for her to meet the president of her home country here at Yale, to be able to present him with a gift. They're also pictured with one of our professors, Elijah Paintsill. And I'm sure you can imagine that this was an incredibly popular event. To meet all of the demand we had for it, we had to even stream it into different classrooms so that everyone who wanted to see it was able to see it. And so what we hope you do while you're here at Yale SOM, as Joanne said, is not only stay in SOM, we hope to push you out of the door a little bit to go explore Yale University. And we'll just go through some pictures here so you can see what it looks like, although I'm sure if you've started your research, you have seen what it looks like, and I can promise it really is this nice year round. So what we hope is that you'll attend different things. You'll attend plays, you'll go see our art galleries, you'll study in our libraries. You'll meet students from other departments and build those connections that you maybe never would have before. Maybe you'll meet a student at the law school or a student at the School of Forestry. I think one of the really great things about being a Yale student is just that you never know who you're going to meet, and you'll never know what common interests you'll find and what you'll learn from each other. So we really do hope that you take advantage of all of that during your 9 months here at Yale. And unfortunately, those 9 months must come to an end eventually. It's one academic year is a short program, so it's important to talk about where MAM students end up after this. And these sectors and regions probably don't surprise you. They likely mirror what you or your MBA colleagues are interested in, with the biggest industry sectors being tech and finance and consulting, along with some others, but those are where we see most MAM students ending up. And that is largely thanks to our fantastic career development office. I know Joanne has touched on what services they offer and what they do, but we have a lot of really fantastic global recruiters coming year after year to meet MAM, MBA, and SOM students in general. Recognize a lot of these companies. They are probably where many of you hope to work in the future, and we're very lucky to attract these employers year after year for SOM talent. And where do our students end up globally, which is a really interesting question since it is such a global group. And you can see that the answer is really all over. But I think something important to note is that this is taken within the first year after graduation. So it includes, or it reflects something called OPT, which is optional practical training. That is an extension on your student visa you may be able to obtain, which reflects the number in the US. So a lot of students will spend a year, maybe a couple years if they choose a STEM designation, to work in the US, gain some experience, but that doesn't mean that that is where they stay for their entire career. As I mentioned, it's a global group, and we've noticed that they prefer to work globally. So you can see that while their first job may be in the US, their second job, third job, fourth job could be all over the world. As we mentioned, a lot of those companies that recruit are global organizations. So 1 year or for a few years, you may work in the US, and then you may go work in Asia or Europe. So it really depends on the student and their path and what they're interested in. And as we mentioned, this degree is an investment, so students always want to be able to see a return on their investment, which we are happy to be able to illustrate here. You can see the annual income for full-time jobs post the MAM is reflected in the largest graduate image. And in 2018, we did poll our alums, and we asked them what the most important positive effect that the MAM had on their career. And I thought these results were so interesting and so heartening to see. The largest percentage of students said that the MAM helped them find their true passion and calling. And I just think that's so incredible. These students leave their home countries or where they did their MBA or where their family is or where their friends are to come to the US and study at Yale for a year. So I think it's just incredible that they say that that is what they got out of the MAM. It showed them what they really want to do with their life. And I don't know if you can find anything that says what the MAM is quite like that. And I hope it comes as no surprise at this point, after we've been talking about the MAM, to see that most students are satisfied with their decision to pursue the MAM. And we see that throughout SOM in many ways, but speaking for admissions, I say one way that we definitely see it is how many students we interview or how many applications we read where the applicant says, my classmate did this and they just had the most wonderful things to say about it, or this is what their outcome was of it, or this is where they're working now and this is the community that they've created, and so I want to try and pursue this too. So I think that's something really exciting and something we love to see in admissions. So our application is now open. It went live not too long ago. So if you're interested in applying for round 1, now is probably the time to start thinking about getting your materials together. We'll talk a little bit about what that looks like. It's a standard online application. We'll ask for your transcripts from every degree granting university that you have attended. We'll also ask for your entrance exam score to your global network school. So this could be the GMAT or the GRE. It could also be things like the IEGAT or the Lagos Business School exam or the China MBA entrance exam score. So whatever you took to enter your MBA school, that is what we will accept. If a test score was waived or your school did not require one, we will honor that as well. We will also have to complete a few essays, and then we will ask for 2 letters of recommendation. So one is a letter of support from your dean or director, and this confirms that you are in good standing in your MBA program or that you graduated in good standing in your MBA program, depending on when you studied there. And the dean or director of your MBA will know what this is and the process that we use to obtain it for them. So just let them know that you're interested in applying for the MAM, and they'll give you further instruction on how to complete this. The next is a professional letter of recommendation. So we typically recommend that you ask a supervisor or a former supervisor or anyone who you think could best speak to your ability to succeed in this program. After that, you will pay a $100 application fee to submit your application, and then you'll be directed to complete video questions. And I always like to touch on this a little bit because we get tons of questions about it. It makes students nervous to record answers on camera. We get it, but we're here to tell you there's nothing to worry about. These questions aren't meant to trick you or stump you. We don't put equations on the screen and ask you to solve them. It just helps us to get to know you a little bit better. And we also don't require any language exams like the TOEFL, so it also helps us gauge your language ability. And then we extend interview by invitation only. So once you submit your application, we will review them, and then we will be in touch if you are invited for an interview. And we have the tuition on the screen. We know that this number can look like a lot, but we are committed to creating a financial aid package that makes this a possibility for our students through our international loan provider and through possibly being awarded a scholarship. And as I mentioned, our application is live now. Round 1 is in January. You know, this seems like it's far away, but it's really not when you think of all the things that you might want to do to be prepared for it, including asking your recommender if they would write you a letter, or thinking about what you want to write your essay about, requesting transcripts if you need to request transcripts. Particularly in this COVID world, we know that transcripts can take a little bit of time to get, so if you need to request them, it may be a good time now to do it. But if you also don't think that you are ready to apply in round 1, we have 2 rounds after that, one in February and one in April. And if you need a little bit more time to get your materials together to submit your strongest possible application, it is absolutely fine to apply in those rounds as well.
Kelsey, before we move on, can you tell our audience what is required to be considered for scholarships? And if anybody else has any other questions, please go ahead and use the Q&A to enter those now.
Sure, good question. So you do not need to do anything besides submit your application to be considered for a scholarship. We consider all of our admitted students for a scholarship automatically. You don't need to write an essay saying why you need one, or if you think your merits show one. It is merit-based. So we will use your application to determine if we are able to award you a scholarship. And if you see your school on this list, it means you are part of our concurrent partnerships. What this means is that you can pursue the MAM while you are working toward your MBA degree. So the classes you take as part of the MAM will count as electives back towards your MBA at your Global Network School. So when you graduate Yale SOM, you will graduate with your MBA after the credits transfer back, and you will also receive the MAM degree from Yale SOM. That brings us to questions. So I'll turn it back to Joanne. I can see some questions coming in, so I'll let her kick that off.
Sure. I have one question here that I'm happy to tackle. It's a little bit of a complicated one, but due to COVID, some of you may have your MBA programs postponed. Particularly, this person's asking until January 2021 due to COVID. And I'll ask you to work with your Global Network Program Director to see if it makes sense for you to apply this year for fall of 2021. We do need students to have taken the bulk of their core classes in an MBA program to take the best advantage of the opportunity to do the MAM program. And if you haven't gotten through the majority of your core, you probably should wait, in part not only to make sure that you're ready to be here at Yale SOM, having done the core of an MBA program to begin with, but also to make sure that you'll be able to meet the requirements of your Global Network School to get your MBA in a timely fashion. So this is probably on a case-by-case basis. You're welcome to email our inbox. You can see our email address here. We can help out depending on what school you're coming from, but I would absolutely encourage you to first check in with the program director or the admissions folks at the MBA school where you already are enrolled, or perhaps to where you've been admitted. We've been answering these questions as they come up with our partners at those other schools, so don't worry about that. We know kind of what's going on everywhere, and it is a bit on a case-by-case basis. Kelsey, somebody's asking a bit about how our age range for our students. We put an average age of 32 here. What would you say kind of is the range of ages for which this program has seen in the past couple of years?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say the average age is just that. It's the average. We have students who are younger than that. We have students who are older than that. What we always recommend is to think about where you are in your career or what you hope to get out of this program and make sure it makes sense for you at that time in your career. And it's also for MBA graduates. So in some countries, students tend to go to an MBA degree a little bit younger. In some countries, they wait and gain some professional experience. So I would not think too much about the average age, and I would encourage you to think about where you are in your career and when this makes the most sense for you.
Great, thanks, Kelsey. I'll tackle the next one. Somebody's asking about an expired GMAT score. We will take your GMAT score if it was the one that you used to get into your MBA program. If it's expired now, that's okay. You're welcome to let us know what that score was at the time that you were admitted to your program. And then asking for the average admission rate for the MAM program, that's not something that we discuss outside of the admissions office, so unfortunately we can't answer that question for you. Kelsey, how about when students should come to the MAM program? Can they do it right after the MBA? Should they get a few years of experience? What do we typically see?
We see both, I would say. We see students do it concurrently, we see students doing it consecutively, and we see students gaining a few years of work experience, maybe 3 to 5 or a little bit more than that, and then coming to the MAM. Like I said, I would really just encourage you to think about what you want to get out of this, where you are in your career, the return on investment, and think about when it makes the most sense for you.
Great, that's a great answer. Let's see, is there a specific way that students should apply, Kelsey, to the program if they're currently enrolled, or what's the application process? Is it different for different situations?
So it's not different for different situations. You'll fill out the same application that you would if you had graduated 3 years ago. You will talk to your dean or director, so that process may be a little bit different. If you are currently in your MBA, maybe they're right down the hall. If you have already graduated, maybe you need to email them or email their office. So I would say there is no real difference besides small things like that.
One question we have here that I can tackle is about scholarships. Do they ever cover all tuition costs? And the answer is no. Our scholarship budget is pretty limited. We are lucky enough to be able to offer small awards, anything from maybe $10,000 for the program up to a little bit more. Our tuition generally ends up at about $70,000 a year, and we don't offer anything, unfortunately, that even sort of approaches that amount. We do have, like I said, on the smaller side of a scholarship budget, and it will depend depend a bit on your application, which will help determine how much we're able to offer each individual student. I'll tackle this next one as well. Somebody's asking about whether or not companies sponsor MAM for their employees. I'd say we see very few sponsorships for the MAM, but it does happen occasionally. That would be a conversation you'd want to have with your employer. The motivation for them to sponsor would really be up to them. Obviously, you'd come back depending on where you're from or what your past experience has been with a much more global outlook, a network that might be more global in nature, the opportunity to dive deeper into something that might be quite valuable to your employee, whether that's marketing or operations or finance or strategy. So this is not something we see very often at all, but it's not impossible. And certainly if that's something you're interested in, you would have to connect with your employer to determine what the parameters would be around there. Kelsey, for you, is it possible to apply to both an MBA and an MAM at the same time, or would we require admission to the MBA program before the MAM program would be eligible?
It would depend on your school, and Joanne, feel free to add to this. Yep. Some of our concurrent partnership schools, there is an option to apply at the same time, but it is not all of them, so I would recommend checking before you think too much about that.
Yeah, I agree. We've got a very limited number, maybe even one or two, where we would allow students to apply at the same time. I'd say for the majority of folks on the call, you will need to be in your MBA program already or be an alumnus of your program before you'd be eligible to apply to the MAM program. We have one quick question here that I think I can answer quickly. Do you need to submit your current MBA grades? The answer is yes. If you're going to apply in January and you've started your MBA in August or September, we will ask you to submit whatever grades you have at the time as part of your application package, including a transcript. If you have one at that time, we'll gladly take that. Kelsey, there's a question about the pay app specifically, but I'll expand the question. Are there any minimums of entrance exam scores that we require for admission to the program?
So no, all test scores, including the pay-up, we do not have a minimum. It is a holistic review process, so we really look into each part of your application. So if maybe your pay-up or a different entrance exam score isn't as high as you hope it would be, there's other ways to show your ability to succeed in the program: grades, work experience, leadership experience, involvement. So that would be my answer to that. There are no minimums.
How about the weight of the GMAT, Kelsey? When we're reading applications and evaluating candidates, where does the score come in? And would you recommend somebody doing it over again if they weren't happy with their score, even if it got them their admission to their MBA program?
So you certainly don't need to do it over again. I don't say we would recommend it. If for some reason you do want to take it, you are also welcome to include that score in addition to the score that you sent to your MBA school for admission. But as I mentioned, it's a holistic process. So we don't weigh one part more heavily than the other. So we will look at your entire application and make our decision based on that.
Great. Just have a couple more questions and then we'll be out of time. One question is about if it's possible to apply now and then postpone for a year. And the answer is not really. We encourage you to apply for the year in which you intend to enroll. Certainly this past year we had our COVID situation that really upended that for a lot of students. And certainly we did allow for opportunity for students to ask to be considered for a deferral. That is not an automatic guarantee, but certainly we were sensitive to the fact that this is quite an unusual year. Generally speaking, you should only apply at the time that you intend to enroll in the program. There is a question here about concurrent partnership schools, and that's a question that's beyond the scope of students and the admissions office, frankly. To become a concurrent partnership school, you have to have an opportunity for the program to be at least 2 years. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. You'll finish your MBA before you started the MAM. So if you only have a 1-year program, a concurrent partnership is not necessary. If you're in a 2-year program, the concurrent partnership would allow you to use the electives and classes taken at Yale to finish the MBA at your home school. And so most of those have already been determined and settled by the schools. So if you're not on the concurrent school list, there's probably a really good reason why. Is there a way to get a non-MBA with sustainable finance from a partner school? Not from Yale, nope. If there are other opportunities for an MBA with a thesis or an area of focus, you're welcome to explore that, but Yale does not offer that option, so that's no. How many years of work experience, Kelsey, do our students typically have?
It ranges. I can't remember off the top of my head what this year's average was. I want to say between 5 and 8.
I think it's a little more than that, actually. I think we're closer to 9, yeah.
Okay. So like Joanne said, about 9. It really does depend on the student. We see a little bit more than that. We see a little bit less than that. So I guess this year's average is 9 years.
Yeah, I think so. And certainly there are students who come in with a bit less prior to their MBA and then go straight into the MAM, and others that have a little bit more. Would we welcome a student with less than 1 year of work experience? I'd say we welcome anybody to apply who's eligible for their MBA program. It would be difficult for us to seriously consider somebody who didn't have some significant work experience that came along with responsibility and leadership, but you are very welcome to apply. There are no minimums for work experience, but on average, we're seeing students with 9 to 10 years. It would be challenging for us to seriously consider somebody who didn't have some significant work experience to add texture and value to the classroom discussions. And then the final question here is a very specific one, and then we'll wrap it up. I have a student who's asking about military veterans, either for US or perhaps other countries, and does that count for leadership experience? And the answer is absolutely. You know, we know our military veterans come in with significant leadership experience, and that does count for work experience as well. So if that's something that you want to talk more about in your essays or your application, of course, we would welcome that too. So Kelsey, we just hit the 45-minute mark, and so I'll thank everybody so much for their questions. These were great opportunities for us to know what's on your mind, as well as opportunities for you to learn a little bit more about our program as well. If you have any other questions, our email address is right here. I just see somebody asking quickly about scholarships, and I think we answered this a couple different times, but more information on everything, including scholarships, is available on our website. And again, there's not much you can do. Apply to the program, you will be considered for scholarship at the same time of admission. So I think that'll answer that one. Thanks again for your time. It's been a pleasure talking to you. Kelsey, thank you so much for joining me today. Thanks for Rachel helping out on the back end. We welcome your questions via email and hope one of these days we'll see you in person. Thanks again for spending your time with us, and have a great rest of your day.
Bye, thank you.